And yet they are partly to blame for the predicament of poor old Clio, history's muse, subjected either to embalming or eviction and dragged out of the attic like a dotty aunt in eccentric dress, smelling a bit of mothballs, given an occasional airing for a special occasion, and then hastily returned to her quarters, where she shares space with mildewy Gladstone bags and antimacassars. For it was the Whig historians who were so determined to insist on the insularity of British history, and who took as a truism that the meaning of British history was synonymous with its separateness. In this steadfast belief they were not, in fact, invariably wrong. There are moments, significant moments, like the late Elizabethan 16th century or the Hanoverian mid-18th century, when British or anyway English history is, indeed, an unmistakable peculiarity. The conviction that it was the work of history to sift from the unruly mass of past data material that seemed to signpost the way towards the British difference, towards the realization of a nation-state called Great Britain, or the United Kingdom, was what gave its narratives the virtues of tremendous clarity and coherence. But now that the United Kingdom itself has become not a truism but a question, along with many other institutions that the Churchillian historians once assumed to be perpetual, that clarity looks like overconfidence, and the history that assumed the inevitability and permanence of the British difference suddenly seems misleading. Those teleological signposts were pointing after all the wrong way. Is it better not to read this sort of history, better not to read any sort of British history, if it is going to perpetuate illusions of isolationism in an increasingly globalized world? But to collude in the minimization of British history on the grounds of its imagined irrelevance to our rebranded national future, or from a suspicion that it does no more than recycle patriotic pieties unsuited to the global marketplace, would be an act of appallingly self-inflicted collective memory loss. The damage done would vindicate Cicero's warning that cultures without history doom themselves to remain trapped in the most illusory tense of all, the present, akin to small children, who know neither whence they have come nor whither they go. And it would be a gratuitously willed amnesia, too, for the histories that presupposed a single unchanging national personality embedded within the different periods of the past are not, in fact, the only British histories imaginable. Imagine instead a British history in which alteration, mutation and flux, rather than continuity and bedrock solidity, are the norm. A history that does not lead inexorably to a consummation in the unitary state of Great Britain, but that sees that period, only after all 3 centuries old,